From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, and thanks for staying up late with us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. We begin with the 2020 vote and a new development. Green Party candidates will likely not appear on Montana ballots this fall. This after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to take up an emergency petition filed by Secretary of State Corey Stapleton. That decision could have an impact on the competitive U.S. Senate race between Republican incumbent Senator Steve Daines and Democratic Governor Steve Bullock. Justice Elena Kagan issued that order today without comment or recorded dissent. Well, President Trump's family took center stage during night 2 of the Republican National Convention. Natalie Brand has more details from Washington, D.C.
First Lady Melania Trump delivered a very personal appeal to voters in the newly renovated Rose Garden at the White House.
How proud I will be to cast my vote again for Donald this November. We must make sure that women are heard and that the American dream continues to thrive.
It's a family affair on night 2, with President Trump's daughter Tiffany and his son Eric also making a case for their father's re-election.
My father ran not because he needed the job, but because he knew hard-working people across this great country were being left behind.
Republicans of all walks of life also weighed in, from a Minnesota dairy farmer to former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, resurrecting disputed claims about the Biden family's ties to Ukraine.
A corrupt Ukrainian oligarch put Hunter on the board of his gas company, even though he had no experience in Ukraine or in the energy sector. None.
President Trump made more surprise appearances Tuesday night, including holding a naturalization ceremony for immigrants to become U.S. citizens.
America rejoices as we welcome 5 absolutely incredible new members into our great American family.
One of the headliners, Secretary Mike Pompeo, is drawing criticism from congressional Democrats and former diplomats for his appearance for breaking precedent by giving a convention speech as the sitting U.S. Secretary of State.
I'm Mike Pompeo.
Secretary Pompeo taped his remarks from Jerusalem Monday during an official trip to Israel.
Just 2 weeks ago, the president brokered a historic peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. This is a deal that our grandchildren will read about in their history books.
Secretary Pompeo sent this cable to diplomats last month, reminding them that it's State Department policy that employees may not engage in partisan political activity, even on personal time. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Well, a Billings woman is definitely the talk of the town after making an appearance at the convention last night.
I had faith, and let me tell you, you have to have faith when your husband is a Marine and a police officer who was shot at on the job. And when you run a business, a little faith goes a long way. Faith in Jesus and faith in America.
Tanya Weinreis, who owns Mountain Mud Espresso, thanked President Trump for helping keep her business afloat during the pandemic. She got one of the first PPP loans from Yellowstone Bank. I talked to her this afternoon about the experience of appearing in the RNC.
Heard from a lot of people after that was on last night.
Oh boy, yeah, I think my voicemail filled up in less than 3 minutes, and then probably a couple hundred emails, messages, positive and negative. We have people from all over the country wanting to buy coffee, and then we have people that are saying things that I can't repeat.
What was the main thing that you wanted to get across to the American public?
The one thing that hadn't been told before was my faith and, what it was like to go through that, just like every other American was facing trials.
And our coverage of the RNC continues throughout the week, wrapping up Thursday night. A Montana pilot was killed fighting the White River Fire in Mount Hood, Oregon. The Northwest region of the Forest Service confirmed to MTN the pilot was the only one in the helicopter. The pilot, who was flying out of Bozeman, has now been identified as Tom Duffy. The accident happened late yesterday as that helicopter was doing bucket water drops on the fire. And the Lone Star Fire in Yellowstone National Park is actively burning and forcing some closures. That blaze is burning about 3 miles south of Old Faithful. It's estimated at 763 acres with no containment. The fire is spreading away from the Old Faithful area. All entrances to the park remain open, but some secondary roads and trails near Old Faithful are closed. That wildfire was started by lightning this past Saturday. Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joining us now. And Bob, all those fires really starting to create some problems for air quality.
We got a break tonight, though, because we had some thunderstorms move through and the outflow winds have blown some of the smoke away from the Billings area. Let me show you, though. As you can see, we still have copious amounts of smoke rotating around that high pressure cell in the Great Basin area. So it's sending smoke from California right up into Idaho, into Montana. Another batch there from the south continues to come up our way through the Great Plains. But look what's happening here. You can see the smoke. Not only is it covering almost all of Montana, it's now starting to go up in parts of southern Canada. But here in Billings area, and you'll notice across the rest of southern Montana, we do have air quality warnings until about 3:45 tomorrow afternoon. At the moment, we have a severe thunderstorm warning in Macomb, Garfield, and Prairie County. 70-mile-per-hour winds helping to blow some of the smoke away from that area as well with some thunder showers. But here in the Billings area, look at this. Our air quality now is still unhealthy for sensitive groups, and that seems to be the case across much of southern Montana. Well, the rest of the forecast coming up in a few more minutes. Russ?
Thanks, Bob. Here fires are concerned, but on the Gulf Coast, they are thinking about Hurricane Laura, which is currently gaining strength and expected to be a monster, crashing into the Louisiana and Texas coast as a Category 3, possibly even a Category 4 in the next 24 hours. Here's more.
Sheriff's Office. In the low-lying neighborhoods around Beaumont, Jefferson County deputies are going door to door to deliver an urgent warning for people living in Hurricane Laura's path.
It's a mandatory evacuation if you choose to leave.
Sheriff Zena Stevens just got back into her own house after being flooded out during Tropical Storm Imelda last September.
My story is a lot of people in our community's story, and so we understand how fast things can go really bad. Are y'all leaving? Yeah. Good.
The Civic Center is now a staging area for residents who need help getting out. But even with mandatory evacuation orders in place, some residents are refusing to leave.
If something were to happen to the roof or something, I'd want to be here to fix it while I could.
I mean, but that's pretty dangerous.
I know. We've been fortunate so far. We've made it. It's just scary to leave your stuff behind.
More than 500,000 people in Texas and Louisiana are being ordered to evacuate. Space is limited and evacuations are more complicated with COVID-19.
Remember, just because a hurricane is coming to Texas does not mean that COVID-19 either has or is going to leave Texas.
Mireya Villarreal, CBS News.
And still to come on the MTN News at 10 here in Q2, COVID-19 continuing to take a deadly toll in Yellowstone County. Also, school about to get started in Lockwood, which is showing off one of the newest schools in the state. Then later in sports, Scott will introduce you to this week's Athlete of the Week.